trying to find your style. How do I find my style? That is the wrong question to be asking. It's like if you were out somewhere, maybe you were on a walk or something, and somebody pulls over, right? They roll down their window and then they say to you, hey, do I go left or right? And you just stand there like, I don't know. Where are you trying to go? You can't give any sort of answer to that question because there's no destination, right? You don't know the destination, then you can't possibly know where to go. And it's the same for you, right? Asking, hey, how do I find my style? It's like, I don't know. How do you see the world? What do you love? What do you hate? What do you feel? And that's going to be the only way that you will be able to find your style. Hey, welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Raymond Hatfield, and today we are talking about the one thing you need to do to find your style. As always, the Beginner Photography Podcast is brought to you by CloudSpot, the all-in-one solution for photographers just like yourselves to deliver and even sell your photos online. Now, today we have an episode from the BPP Vault. Now, after years of chatting with world-class photographers and sharing information, we have made a little gold mine of photography tips and tricks. So these rewind interviews allow for new listeners to hear of the timeless photo nuggets of the past, as well as letting longtime listeners hear these interviews again with more hands-on photography experience to draw from and be able to change your perception of what it is that you shoot and how you see the world. So, as I said, today we are talking about how to find your style. And I can say that definitively, after hosting this podcast for 7 years and being in the world of photography and image making for 15, almost 20 years, one of the questions that I get asked all the time is, how do I find my style? And to tell you the truth, it is impossible to tell you how to find your style, because your style it's so unique to yourself. Just like all art is very subjective, but your style is unique based on the things that you like. Asking somebody how to find your style is like asking them, who should you be? It's not possible to get an answer that's accurately or that is effectively going to help you, because your style of photography it's an intimate reflection of who you are, your experiences, your emotions, your perceptions. It's how you see the world. So listen close. And with that, let's go ahead and get on into today's Rewind episode. If style is something that you want and you're actively seeking it, then you're going about it the wrong way. And I want to help you, because I want to help you find that style. I want to help you get to that point to where you feel like you do have a style, but it's not going to be in the traditional sense that maybe you're expecting. So style, let's talk about that first, right? Let's define style. Let's talk about what style is, because if we don't know what something is or what we are actively searching for, how do we know if we're going in the right direction towards getting it? So style is when you look at somebody's work and you know that it's theirs. You see it. There's something visual. There's some sort of element about this individual's work, whether it be a writer, a painter, a photographer, a filmmaker. There's something about what it is that they do, a musician, that whenever you hear it, you know that it is theirs. And again, sometimes you can't put your finger on it. And when you're first getting started, that is what is really difficult, because you know that there's something there, but you can't exactly describe it, but you want to have that yourself, and you don't know how to get to that spot. And it's perfectly understandable. That's one reason why we fall in love with this thing in the first place. My son loves to play the piano. He's very musically minded, right? And when he hears something on the radio, he will know that it is from a specific artist just because of, I don't know, some sort of element in the song that he hears that I don't hear. I don't understand it. I can do it visually, maybe with photographs or movies, but he does it with music. So there's something there that we love. And then we, as new photographers, as beginners, as somebody who just wants to start, that's the first place where we go, is that we try to emulate that. We try to emulate that style. We don't worry about the technicals. We just try to emulate that style, hoping that if we get the style, or we find a style, then that's all that we need to do. Everything else will just come easy after that. But I mentioned earlier that trying to find your style, how do I find my style? That is the wrong question to be asking. It's like if you were out somewhere, maybe you were on a walk or something, and somebody pulls over, right? They roll down their window and then they say to you, hey, do I go left or right? And you just stand there like, I don't know. Where are you trying to go? And then you say, no. Should I go left or should I go right? Where do you think I should go? You can't give any sort of answer to that question because there's no destination, right? You don't know the destination, then you can't possibly know where to go. And it's the same for you, right? Asking, hey, how do I find my style? It's like, I don't know. How do you see the world? What do you love? What do you hate? What do you feel? And that's going to be the only way that you will be able to find your style. So asking, hey, does my style come through in this? Do I have a style? Does this work? It's just an impossible question, but that's okay. That's okay. Because today I hope to help you figure out how to actually find your style. Now, one thing about style is that I think that it really all comes down to what is it that you are simply trying to say? What do you want to say about something? Because that's how you do it, right? The technicals don't really even matter. It is what do you want to say? And then the technicals follow that, right? If I wanted to say this family loves each other more than anyone else in the world, well, that's going to dictate several things. Where I place my camera, what I ask this family to do, the type of light that I use. And you may say to yourself, well, I don't understand how. There's many ways to show that a family loves each other more than anyone else in the world. And you're right. There absolutely is. You might tell that story a little bit differently. But you have to start somewhere. And you have to start with what is it that you're trying to say? So step one for figuring out your style is, what are you trying to say? Because that's the destination, right? Do I go left or right? Well, it depends on where you're going. Should you use an 85 millimeter lens or a 24 millimeter lens? Well, it depends on what it is that you're trying to say. So that's one of the most important things that you can try to start to think of now, right? This family loves each other more than anyone else in the world, or this product will make you a happier person, or this product will make you a more refined person. In your head, I bet you just saw two different images. So it's trying to come up with that message. What is it that you want to say? And I feel like I'm going to say that a whole bunch during this podcast, but really, I can't put it into more words than that except for give you some possible examples. And that's going to be my goal here today, is give you some concrete examples that you can use. I'm going to give you some ideas, some questions to ask yourself so that you can figure out exactly what are you trying to say, and give you some guideposts to figuring out your style, finding your style. And I feel like that's the wrong word to use, figuring out your style, because if I'm being honest, I feel like style really is a lot more organic than that. I feel like it's very hard to manufacture a style as much as we want to. We want to be, in control of our own destiny and our own universe. But sometimes these things are organic, and it's not that, it's just that we're just too close to it to know what it is that we are really trying to say. Does that make sense? We're just too close to it. We can't take a step back and look at the bigger picture and say, oh, okay, this is it. This is the thing. I don't know why saying we want to be in control of our own universe reminded me of Ryan Shembry. And I interviewed Ryan Shembry. He's a wedding photographer, the youngest master photographer, back in 97, episode 97, maybe 98. You'd have to go back and look. It's around there. It's in the high 90s, okay? And when I look at Ryan's work today, whenever he posts anything on either Instagram or on Facebook, his images are very different than mine. Obviously from a technical perspective, but also what it is that he's trying to say in his images. And if I were to look at his images and I were to try to come up with what is Ryan trying to say, it would be that you are the master of your own universe. I will go ahead and post a photo of Ryan's in the show notes as well, just so that you can see it and get an idea for what I'm talking about, because I really think that Ryan has, and again, here's the thing, is that I could be totally wrong. I could be 100% wrong, but it really doesn't matter in this case, because you as a photographer, you are more than just somebody who picked up a camera and just starts taking photos. You are more than just using a tool. You have ideas, you have thoughts, you have dreams, you have hopes, you have fears, you have desires. And all of that is obviously what makes you unique. And it's that experience of your life that you go through life, right? And you see things through a different lens. You see something completely different than I might see, right? We could watch the exact same interaction between two people and see two very, very different things, because your life experience tells you one thing, my life experience tells me another thing. So when I look at somebody else's work, specifically Ryan's work here, that is what I see. That is what I see, right? And that is kind of what art is about. Art is very subjective. Photography is very subjective. Again, I may hate a photo that you love, just like music. You may hate music that I love. That's okay. That's okay, because this is a form of art. It doesn't have to be made so that everybody's going to love it. Art is made from a person through the lens of their life experience, and then it's shared with the world for them to see it however they see it. And it was Ansel Adams who said there's two people in every single photo, the photographer and the viewer. So it doesn't matter what you as a photographer are hoping that somebody gets out of it. Who cares what anybody else thinks? It's what you are trying to say. And you as a photographer, this is going to get real deep real quick. You as a photographer, it is your job to tell whatever story you are trying to tell to the best of your abilities. So it doesn't matter what other people think is going on in your image. It is what you are trying to say. And whatever they think, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter what I think about Ryan's images. But this is how I perceive them. And I guess the point of me saying this is that as a photographer, as an artist, you need to have a goal, a why, a what are you trying to say, so that you can build an image that says that. Photography is a form of storytelling. Could you imagine a story with no point? It'd be very boring. You are the writer in this situation. So I want to give you a practice, right? I want to give you an exercise for you to do. I want you to, wherever it is that you look at photos, whether it be Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook, next time you see a photo from a photographer, ask yourself, what are they trying to say here? And again, there's no wrong answers. It's not, is this what they were really trying to say? Because actually they were saying this. It doesn't matter. It's what you think they are trying to say. And then ask yourself, how effective were they at that? Were they trying to say that this family loves each other more than anybody else in the entire world? Okay, how come, little Jimmy is off to the corner like a few steps behind? Maybe they were just trying to say, family can be awkward, but it's family. At the end of the day, family is family. And it doesn't matter what it is that looks like for you. I don't know. But I want you to do that exercise. I want you to go through and remember, no wrong answers. You could look at a photo of flowers and think, wow, springtime is for new beginnings. Or I could look at that same photo and think to myself, nothing is more beautiful than nature. And then whoever's in the passenger seat with you in the car right now could think to themselves that photo means life always finds a way. It doesn't matter. There's no wrong answers. But when you get into that practice of figuring out what the story is that is being told to you, or what is the story that you believe that the photographer is trying to tell you, then you can start to implement that in your work and tell better stories yourself. Now, I have talked about before, just a few moments ago, I said, I don't think that style is something that can be manufactured. It really is much more organic in nature than that. And I've said on the podcast maybe a few times, I don't know exactly when, but when I was in film school, me and my buddy Steve was a director. I went to school for cinematography. So I would control the look of a film. And we were talking about style because certain cinematographers have a style. And I remember Steve asking me, he's like, what is your style going to be? And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, let me think about this. I want to keep it simple, 2K light, right? 2000 watt light with some simple diffusion in front of it. 2K diffusion. That's it. That's my style. But in practice, this was one of the worst ideas that I could have ever came up with, because trying to come up with a style without the experience really screwed me, because now instead of trying to figure out what the story is, because a film is a story as well, instead of figuring out what the story was and trying to tell that story to the best of my abilities using camera movement, lens choice, lighting, I instead said, I'm going to do this thing, and I almost don't even care what is being said. I did the exact opposite of creating a style. It was more like a party trick. It was just something to do because I thought that's what you had to do. You had to have a style. I'm going to manufacture the style. But if it doesn't work for what it is that you're creating, then it's going to fall flat every single time. So you cannot manufacture your style if you don't know what the destination is, if you don't know what you're trying to say. Should it go left or right? It depends. What's the destination? I'm going to continue to, I guess, keep using this filmmaking guide here for this part, because I think that it's important, and I think that it's something that probably many of you, maybe you haven't noticed, maybe you have, I don't know. Well, one thing that I learned in cinematography when I was in film school was just the importance that your camera can, that you can use your camera as a tool to tell the story that needs to be told. And specifically in filmmaking, if your camera is at somebody's eye level, they're equal to you, right? You're looking them right in the eye, they're an equal. But if you drop the camera down 6-8 inches and you have to look up at that person, suddenly your brain tells you that that person is in a position of power. And maybe that's just because the way that as children, that's how we see our parents. We look up at them. They're in power. But vice versa, if the camera is above them and it looks down on them, suddenly that person, they feel insignificant. They're unsure of what is going on here. So again, that is an example of how you can use your camera to tell the story. The story isn't just going to happen in front of you. It's not, wow, this family better really love each other for me to capture the images and tell the story that I want to tell. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's up to you as the photographer. How do you tell that story? Through lens choice, through movement, through lighting, through connection between this family. That's up to you. Now, another, I guess this is kind of an aside, but another thing that I learned in film school, it was like day one that I still think about every single time I watch a movie. So therefore it's ruined every movie for me. But if there's a scene where something has to be quiet, you actually, as an audio engineer, have to turn up the volume, because if you really wanted to make something quiet, you would just go ahead and make it quiet, right? You can barely hear me now. But if I got really close to the mic and I talk to you like this, it's actually louder than when I'm talking regular. I don't know. I just always thought that was interesting. Anyway, what I'm saying is just think about those things next time you see a movie and realize that things outside of what the actor is doing or what your subject is doing can be used to help tell a fuller story. And in fact, you know what? I was just thinking about this. So yesterday I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, and it was the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. And in it, they showed that scene. If you haven't seen the movie, okay, I'll explain it. So there's a scene where Al Pacino's character, Michael Corleone, is asked to participate in his family's business and kill 2 men, right? And up until this point, he's worked really hard to not associate himself with the family business. He's not that kind of a guy, but he also recognizes why these 2 have to die and why it's him who has to do it, even though he really doesn't want to, right? So in the scene, he goes to the restaurant where he knows, there's a meeting set up between them. So he goes to this restaurant and he walks in and he He sits down at the table. He goes in the bathroom, grabs the gun that was hidden there for him. And this whole time, it's like, oh my gosh, is he really going to do this? So he goes in, he grabs the gun, he walks back out, and he sits down at the table with him. And when he sits down at the table, the camera is just a little bit taller than him. So it's looking down, right? And it slowly starts to push in until like it's just his face, full frame, filling the frame. And you're just really intrigued. You're like, is he going to do it? You know, all these sounds are kind of going off. The other two guys are speaking in Italian, so you have no idea what they're saying. Unless you speak Italian, I do not, of course. But you're thinking, is he going to do it? Will he do it? Will he not? And you can see it in his eyes. He's struggling with this decision as the camera gets closer and closer, because we know that if he does this, like, it seals his fate as far as his involvement in his family's business for the rest of his life. And suddenly he stands up, and the camera, it doesn't move. The camera does not move up with him. The camera stays at the exact same height and then just looks up at him. So now suddenly the camera went from looking down on him because he was, I don't know what's going to happen. Do I do this? Is this really important? Should I just leave? I could probably just hop a plane to Miami right now and never be a part of this family ever again, and that would be okay. Or do I make this decision? And then when he stands up, the camera looks up at him. So he goes from being indecisive to now just visually being in a position of power. We look up at him. He is now this towering figure as he, completes the mission. I don't know how many people are listening with kids, but it's pretty rough to watch. Not recommended for kids. So I'll keep that PG. But he does the thing, right? He completes the mission and he goes through with it. But the camera, again, it stays put. And instead of the camera getting taller with him to be at eye level, he towers above and takes this position of power. Michael Corleone becomes a boss. That's a transformative scene. He becomes a boss. And it's the camera movement that emphasizes that. I just realized that this is not the beginner film, cinematography podcast. This is the beginner photography podcast. So I apologize. Felt like I was back in film school there. We were breaking down movies. That was fun. Anyway, if you haven't seen the scene, I will post a link to it. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'll post a link in the show notes. But the point is that your camera helps tell the story, but you have to make that decision of what is happening here. What is happening in the scene? What is happening in front of me? What is happening with this family? What is happening with this product? What needs to be said about this? And then how do you take your skills and knowledge as a photographer, as somebody who has done this a lot, and transform that into this, the thing that you are trying to say, the destination that you are trying to get to? Now, if you're asking yourself right now, like, what do I want to say? Well, then you're not getting the point. But I understand. I get my brain tries to search for the simplest answer as well. But again, okay, here it is. The simplest answer is, when it comes to style, right? You obviously have to know what it is that you're trying to say. But you can't manufacture it. You just have to shoot, and your style will develop. And that's it. The more that you shoot, the more that your style will develop. That's it. There's no way to manufacture a style. There's no way to say, this is what I'm going to do. There's no way to authentically create a style. It has to be organic. And sometimes your message, it doesn't have to be on the nose. I said that I want you to think about, what is this photographer trying to say to me? What are they trying to say in this photo? It doesn't always have to be on the nose. A lot of times you can take the exact opposite approach, right? And then have that dichotomy of these two things, like, wait a second, what's going on here, right? Because that can create a really compelling image. There's a lot of people who don't want to take that as a wedding photographer, light and airy and beautiful and butterflies everywhere, and it's just the most magical day and it's just love everywhere. A lot of photographers don't want to take that approach. So how do you tie in? There was a crying ring bearer and the dress showed up late and it was hot, so the cake melted. And you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to make do with what you got and still be able to tell a certain story. So You could hide all of those things and not photograph them, and that would be whatever if that's your style. But not a lot of people want that. A lot of people do want to add opposite elements. I have a photo of I don't share it because it was with the flower girl at a wedding, and she was very young. I don't know, 7, 8, and she was so nervous to walk down the aisle, throwing out the flowers, and everybody staring at her, that she threw up everywhere, like multiple times. It got to the point to where I'm sorry, other people had to leave the room because it was excessive. And I took that photo because that's what happened. These are real, and these are authentic moments that happen on a wedding day. And I'm not going to not capture that photo of her face in a trash can while the bride is looking kind of in horror, but also in looking very sympathetic, like, oh, how sad. And I hope that she's doing okay, because I believe that it was her niece. But I took that photo. I wasn't going to hide that. Your message doesn't always have to be on the nose. And I got a musical reference here. You know that song? There's that song "Hey Ya" by Outkast. If you haven't heard it, it's a fantastic song. It is so much fun to listen to. I mean, you can't help but just bop your head and just have a big old smile on your face, because it is just the happiest sounding song you've ever heard. And it will just transform your day, right? But if you listen to the lyrics themselves are the exact opposite of that. They're a story of how the lead singer doesn't see how love could work, right? Because he's never seen a real example of long lasting love, and that it always just falls apart, and that sometimes he feels like he's just together not because he loves that person, but because he'd rather not be alone. And that is like really sad and depressing. But he masks it with this really upbeat kind of dancing song, and even makes a photography reference. That's why I put this in here about shaking it like a Polaroid picture, right? So there we go. Tied it all together. Photography. Got it. Ta-ta-ta. But anyway, the point is that, again, it doesn't have to be on the nose, but the only way that you can, like, that's more of an advanced idea, right? You cannot say to yourself now with your skill, I want to tell this story, but I want to frame it as an entirely different story. That's very advanced. But know that can happen. So when you look at photos, again, I gave you that exercise earlier. When you look at photos and you ask yourself, what story is being told here? Keep that in mind, because sometimes it's not what you expect. That's okay. But again, these things develop over time, and your message can change. As I said in the beginning, I wanted to shoot, 2K diffusion. Obviously, that was me trying to manufacture a style, but I got to this point to where I could use that and say something to the effect of, movies are a form of storytelling, and I could use a very simple lighting setup to say that life is as easy as you make it, or life is as hard as you make it. Both of those, you could use the exact same lighting setup and it would still work. Or it changes with, in photography. We'll take this example. Like for me, when I think about my photography, and overall, I want to believe that this is the start of something, new. That's what I love. This is the start of something new. And when I go to an engagement session, this is the start of something new. You've embarked on this new chapter in your life. Things feel fresh. Things don't feel stale. They don't feel normal. They feel fresh. And you kind of see things with new eyes. So I try to take a little bit more of a creative approach in the way that I shoot, in the images that I capture, because that's fresh. It causes you to look and say, wow, this is new. This isn't something that is monotonous. This is different. This is unique. It's the same with weddings. But I can only figure those things out. Okay, hold on. But I can go even deeper into that and kind of tailor weddings for my couples through questionnaires, trying to learn more about them. Because, again, as a photographer, you really don't spend a lot of time with the couple before the wedding day. And if it's your job to tell their story, well, figuring out as much as you can about this couple is really important. So I love to send out questionnaires because that can help me in the way that I shoot. Again, things can be new, things can be fresh. But how do you tie that in when a couple says that this is their second marriage, or they've been together 15 years and they already have 2 kids? How do you tie that in? You can only know that by experience. But asking questions like, how long have you been together? When did you know that they were the one for you? How did they propose? Did you know? Were you surprised? Or even describe what you think mornings will look like 10 years from now together. Those questions can give you a lot of insight as to who a couple are, how they interact with each other, their level of comfort, closeness with each other. You know, I've definitely shot couples who it almost felt like a business agreement, you know, their wedding. And not that it was bad, but it's just like, that's who this couple were. They were young professionals, and it was very important to them, you know, that their careers went in a certain way. And that was it seemed like that was a lot of their focus. And this marriage was also important, but not the biggest thing in their entire life. Whereas I've met with other couples who think about nothing else but each other. And both of those require different ways to tell their story. But I think at the end of this, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. It doesn't matter what it is that you are trying to say right now in the beginning, right? Because I don't want you to listen to this and think, oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say. What can I figure out here? What if I incorporated this? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're trying to say right now. No, I take that back. It doesn't matter what you say right now. Always try to say something, but it doesn't matter what you say right now in the beginning, because I don't want that to hold you back. Again, your style will happen organically, but you have to get to that point to allow it to happen organically. You know, my first, 2-3 years worth of shooting weddings, my goal was simply to shoot everything on the wedding day, everything, and then create the story in the edit, from the photos that I chose to the order in which I placed them to even the edit, honestly. So as I got better over time, got better at my camera settings, I got better at seeing light, I got better at anticipating the moment, I was able to then shoot what I wanted to say at the wedding. And in turn, my weddings got better because I knew what it was that I was trying to say, I could be more creative. I could spend more time on the photos that I wanted to create. It didn't have to be, okay, let me just capture everything, and then afterwards, let me try to tell a story. Oh man, I really like this photo, but I just wish it was maybe more dramatic light here, or, you know, a little bit more personal of a connection in this photo. That only came in time. After I didn't worry about what it was that I was saying for the first 2 or 3 years. I was just shooting everything. And then again, it developed on its own. And that's the only way that it's going to happen. But the only way to do that is to keep shooting. Keep shooting. Shoot now. Stop this podcast right now. Not right now. And get shooting. Because it stopped me from second guessing everything that I was doing at a wedding. If I was trying to think beforehand, like, okay, this wedding, I know that they are a younger couple, obviously no kids, you know, first marriage, they just met, college, this is new for them, but they're really excited about these things. So for this, it's going to be excitement, and it's just going to be full of love. And this is, going to tie all those things together. And then you show up and she is like super nervous, and maybe he had too crazy of a night the night before and just isn't, in it 100% in his wedding day. How are you going to capture those things? Like, don't put that extra stress on yourself to then second guess every decision that you have to make. Just stop and just shoot. Just shoot the wedding. Just shoot the event. Just shoot the family. Just shoot the product. And you will see yourself progress over time. But you have to stop chasing it. Chasing your style will leave you just frustrated, because when you're chasing somebody else's style, they already know what they're trying to say. And if you don't know what they're trying to say, you're trying to emulate. That'd be like, probably a really bad example, but if somebody came up to me and said, hey, speak Chinese right now. And then I just started making crazy sounds with my mouth, only because I don't know any Chinese. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. And I don't know the basic structure of how sentences are formed in Chinese. So it would be just a waste of my time, and it would cause nothing but frustration because I have no idea how to get there. But if I took some lessons, like, I don't know, if there was some beginner Chinese podcast and I listened to that and I got an idea of, oh, okay, this is the way that a sentence is, starts to be formed. Oh, so now I know that, okay, if I want to say this thing, I got to use this sentence structure first and then go from there. But the only way to do that is just to do. Creativity is not your ability to come up with something out of nothing. I define creativity as being able to see something and then putting your own spin on it. There were plenty of tablets before the iPad came out, but when the iPad came out, there was just enough of a spin on it that it was revolutionary. It changed the world. You can do the same thing with your photography. It's not waiting for some sort of moment or epiphany to hit you to be able to make the most creative thing you've ever seen before, to be able to create your style, but it's doing exactly what you're doing now. You're doing it right now without knowing it. It is listening to these conversations, these ideas, tips and tricks from photographers who have come before you, listening to them, the insights, the experiences, and then remembering that your unique perspective is how you put your own spin on it. Even if somebody gave you a step-by-step tutorial to shoot exactly how they do, you would do something different that would make it your own. So therefore, what you're doing is creating your own style without knowing it. It's impossible to define it. It's impossible to build it. You're already doing it. It's already inside of you. You just have to uncover it. It's not about discovering it. It's about uncovering it. So with that, I encourage you to keep at it. So that's it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the more that you will uncover your style, and the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Start a conversation. Grow together. That is it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.